Hey guys, BigGunner81 here. Thanks for watching. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about cleaning brass, for prepping it for reloading and all that good stuff. Basically, there's a couple different methods out there for cleaning brass. I say lots of different methods, I should really say, because each one of them, there's maybe like two different basic methods, which is dry cleaning them and wet cleaning them. There's so many different variations, and everybody's got an opinion of what works best for them and so forth. So this is just some ideas, some food for thought when it comes to cleaning your brass. I've tried a few different methods in the past. What I'm doing right now is basically pre-cleaning my brass with a wet solution, and I'll kind of give you the basic ingredients in there and how much you use to make up the solution on the side of the video here somewhere. Anyhow, it's basically a water and vinegar solution. I was searching around online to kind of get an idea of what to use for a cleaner. A while ago I was using a sonic cleaner for cleaning my brass after I tried vibrating, tumbling, and all that kind of stuff. And the sonic cleaner did a great job. But my sonic cleaner broke, and I didn't really want to replace it just yet. So I was looking for other options, and I came across this solution to use with the sonic cleaner. First thing I was thinking was try some dishwasher detergent, the dry powder stuff you use in the automatic dishwasher, and water, and that worked pretty decent, but I wasn't sure if the chemicals that were inside of it were okay for the brass or not. They seem to be. I've tried it a few times, it worked fine, but quickly after that second batch I tried that way, I started looking for solutions online of what I can make with household items to create a good brass cleaner for cleaning your brass. And I came across the water and vinegar solution. There's a couple different variations of it. Basically, water and vinegar are your two main components. Some people add a little bit of salt. I guess the salt, supposedly, you can give me some idea if I'm wrong here, or maybe if there's a different reason, but I guess the salt kind of slows down the chemical reaction, from what I understand, at least I read somewhere. And it may be misinformation, I don't know, so don't quote me. But the salt, I guess, slowed down the chemical reaction so that that the acids and stuff that are inside of the vinegar don't eat away at the brass, I guess, too quickly or something, or etch it or something. I'm not really sure. And then, of course, liquid dishwashing soap, like you'd use for hand washing your dishes. You can use that in this mix as well, and I do. And it works pretty well. In fact, since my sonic cleaner broke, what I started doing was, when I get my fresh off the range brass that's still dirty and maybe has some grass clippings and junk in it and stuff, I first dump it all into a 5-gallon bucket, put some nice hot water in there, and just plain dish soap a little bit in there, and get it to suds up, and I kind of agitate it a little bit, let it sit for a little while, agitate it some more, and then I'll dump that out and maybe do the process again or rinse the brass at that point, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do this water and vinegar and dishwashing liquid mix, and I'll agitate it and I'll let it sit for 5-10 minutes, agitate it again, and I'll do that for about 20-30 minutes. And they come out pretty shiny, pretty clean, but, well, I should say pretty shiny. They still have some residue and stuff that's kind of crusted, like the carbon and old gunpowder residue that's kind of caked up on the inside and on the around where the primer is and everything. Anyhow, I'll do that process. I'll rinse the brass really well, and I'll go ahead and I'll shake off all the excess water and everything and lay them out, let them dry for a little bit. Sometimes I'll put them into a little old toaster oven that I use that's no longer used for food, obviously, but it's just used for like warming up small parts and helping dry brass. Another method of doing that is also, for example, Harbor Freight sells these food dehydrators that basically have trays on them, and they stack the trays, and you could lay your brass on those and use that as a good way to dry your brass. But I dedicate it only to using for your brass, of course. I wouldn't go back to using it for food and stuff, because you got lead and different metal and residues and stuff that you don't want to be eating, of course. But that's a method you could use, the food dehydrator. I think they're pretty cheap. I want to say under 40 bucks maybe. But I don't have one. I just use an old toaster oven that I had, and that seems to work pretty decent. I can kind of warm the brass up and take it out as it cools off. Any moisture pretty much evaporates off them pretty quickly. And I don't do that in a very high setting, probably like maybe 200 degrees or less. I don't, and of course, that's just a rough idea. Follow my ideas at your own risk. Someone might say that's not a good idea. I'm not sure, but that's what I've been doing, and it seems to be working for me. And again, may not work properly for you, so use your own judgment on that. So anyhow, after I do the cleaning and I dry the brass, I'll do the dry tumbling on them to kind of polish them up and try to clean out any of the remaining residue and junk that's still inside the casing. So that's what I've been doing now. What I'd like to try doing in the future, I've heard a lot about wet tumbling. I like the wet tumbling idea because the dust from the vibrating tumblers and the rotating tumblers and stuff and the dry media, you know, there's lead and you know, old residue and carbon and junk that you don't want to be breathing in. And even if you wear a mask and do it outdoors, there's always a chance of getting that powder, you know, either breathing it in or getting on your skin or whatever. It's just not healthy for you. So, not a big fan of the dry tumbling stuff. What I'm looking at is a wet tumbler that uses the stainless steel, you know, pins that you may have seen in some of the other, there's other videos on YouTube by other people and different forums and stuff that I've looked at, and I've seen this method. I'd like to try that stainless steel pin method and use the same cleaner I've been making up for the wet cleaning with the water and vinegar mix and see how it does. I think it'll do pretty well, and you know, I'm thinking that's what I want to try next. Anyway, let me show you my results that I've gotten out of just basically using, again, a pre-cleaning wet method and drying the brass and then doing a dry tumbling with walnut shells. And you'll see the results. So here's what my brass looks like. This is 9mm. Once I just went through the bucket method of wet cleaning it and everything. I should have probably took a little clip of what it looks like beforehand because it's a lot dirtier than this. And it does kind of shine up, you know, pretty nicely, you know, just by doing the liquid method to it. But anyhow, let me show you what it looks like after we take it out of the oven. So here's basically my 223 brass, fresh out of the oven, still nice and hot. What it basically looks like after doing the bucket rinse, you know, method of using the water and vinegar solution and all that good stuff. And of course, it looks shinier than this when it first comes out of the bucket and you're just laying it out to dry. But once you put it in the oven for a little while, and I had it in there probably about 20 minutes, probably a little less than 200 degrees maybe, it just kind of tarnishes a little bit. And next step for me is going to be depriming this particular, you know, casing. The 223 brass, I'll do the wet method and then go ahead and deprime them, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do a polishing with them. And usually these will clean up really well. There's a few that'll be kind of stubborn that have like an excessive amount of buildup on it. And again, most of this brass in front of you has been reloaded before. Some of them have been reloaded maybe 2 times, so that means they've been fired 3 times at least. So, you know, basically just to give you an idea. So anyhow, let me show you what it looks like when it's all done and clean and been through the, you know, the dry tumbler with the walnut shells. So there you have it. That's my results right there. Nice shiny brass. You know, came out pretty decent. There's all types of options, like I said, for cleaning, and everyone's got their own opinion and what works best for them. I'm probably going to tweak my method a little bit. And again, this method is basically taking the brass, doing a you know, wash with it with the liquid dish detergent and water, and then using the vinegar method, basically in a 5-gallon bucket, and just agitating it, you know, shaking the bucket up a little bit without using a tumbler, and then of course rinsing it and drying it, and then doing a rotating tumbler with dry media using walnut shells. I have seen some brass where the primer pockets get even cleaner. But, you know, I really want to try out the wet tumbling method with the stainless steel pins next and see how that works, because it'll probably make this a little bit more efficient of a process. But, you know, that's an investment of either building a nice wet tumbler or buying a wet tumbler that's already made and spending the money on it. So I've been kind of holding off on that because I just don't really feel like spending the money on it yet. And, you know, just going with what I have here to work with at this point. But just food for thought. I do definitely like the mix of using the water and vinegar. It does an amazing job just to shine the brass up. In fact, it almost looks shinier. Well, it looks shinier than this does now, but it's not. This is much cleaner than it is after just doing the bucket method of, you know, agitating it and all that stuff. So anyhow, try it out. See what you think. You know, do some research on your own. See what you think might work for you. and see what your results are. For me, this works right now, but I am going to be looking at a little bit more efficient method, like I said. So, anyhow, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, as always, have fun shooting.